All right. Gonna do a little quick breakdown. Not of every node. This isn't a tutorial, but you would have just watched a little clip of the gameplay, and I want to break down a lot of the sound programming. Please excuse the mess. This was a short, quick jam that I had to work pretty quick at. So the first thing that I want to demonstrate is sort of the mechanical whirring sound that I had going on the whole time, which to a degree is basically just a drone or a looping sound, which is pitched up according to the velocity. There's a couple things that I'll talk about later with like the sound mixes and stuff, because as you warp time, different sounds get pitched up and down because some of the sound we are pitched down and whatever. Again, I'll talk about that a little bit later. And each footstep you take will sidechain a little bit on the mech sound, but in general, all that stuff is not that important, not what I need to talk about during this. But right now, I'll show you what it sounds like without any footsteps. So originally I had it where you were just going like immediately to full speed, but it sounded way cooler when you have this acceleration, and the game is about being a mech, so it worked really well to have a little bit of a slow acceleration. And then if I sprint, and then it works on jumping too. And then if I jump into a wall, it'll actually mess up too. And then if I slow time, what I wanted it to do, like I was talking about before, apologies, I'm probably going to dive into some wrong folders here. Time warp, all the sounds I give them different sound classes, and then while certain events happen, different mixes are popped in and out. So specifically with that, I'm pretty sure, I lowered the volume of it a lot and filtered out anything above 10K. A couple other things, but not really important right now. It's really not that complicated. It's just, you'll get this in a lot of car games. You can do a lot more complicated of an implementation of this. Like, this is basically just a droning mech sound. But if you're having a car, you have different mechanical parts. Again, things I would have maybe liked to expand it upon if it was more than just a 2-week jam that I had to do. I didn't do all the 3D modeling. Someone else did all the 3D modeling, which I don't think YouTube will let me send links, because YouTube wanted me to upload a 30-second video of my face in order to load links, and I would rather not give them my biometric data. Or am I already doing that in this video? Who knows? Anyways, so you can see I have this right mouse button is what slows time. Bunch of nonsense just for more gameplay purposes and materials and whatnot. But pushing and popping sound mixes as I'm doing that, global time dilation to actually slow the time of the game. And then this is so cool. I love you, Unreal, for this. Set global pitch modulation. And this causes some issues because the way that some of the sounds are started and that they keep sync with other things, but it also has the time it takes to interpolate between that so that you can hear while I'm playing. When I do it, it takes a moment and get that record. Like, I love that. Awesome. So anyways, the mech sound is kind of pushed down during all of that because I wanted to leave space for the other things, and I wanted to accentuate the cool time warping sound that I made. So this is not necessarily... Oh yeah, that's just... I'm not going to talk about any of like the actual gameplay programming, like the enemies and stuff, the targets. Not really that important. Same with like the VFX, like field of view and some other post-processing effects. It's not really that important, but essentially the footsteps here, I had to unplug them to show you without it. Hopefully, I'm plugging this in right again. So these, apologies, this video is a bit of a wing in it. I don't like writing scripts and stuff, so I hope I'm just not going to ramble too much. I'm going to try and pump myself through these things. Pushing the sidechain mix, which is what I was describing before about the footsteps, just pushing down the mech sound a little bit. It sounded nice. I don't even know if you can actually hear it that clearly. Probably not on YouTube. Oh yeah, you definitely can. Because if I remove that and then play it, oh yeah, that actually did a lot more than I remember. Good job, me. Yeah, so it does that. Sidechain compresses a little bit. I'm gonna mute that for a moment. Where would I have placed that? That is the real question. This is where not having these things is a bit embarrassing to MechJam. There you go. Let's go place that at volume 0, and I don't think that's overridden by other things. So let me check briefly. Awesome, because I want to talk about the footsteps, because that was something where it's like every project I do with sound design, it's like, all right, footsteps. Footsteps are everything, you know, whether it's a small game, pixel art game, giant mech game, whatever, it's all about footsteps. So I wanted to take a little bit of extra time and do that. So the basics of it are that I did 2 sets of designs, basically, one for the actual metallicness of the footsteps, and then because this is a mech, I added like sort of hydraulics sounds, did specific sound design sessions for both of those, and ended up with 8 zero-indexed metal footstep sounds, which I included the hydraulic sound in each one. And so what I did was I also use this for the head bob, which I'm not really sure is the right thing to do, but the head bob is just like a curve here, and it does that. But then I also realized that like you would want the head bob and the footsteps to match. You know, that was something like I did in another game jam recently, and the programmer didn't do that, and I was like, oh, that's a bit strange, because your head is bobbing up and down, but the footsteps are happening at a different time. And this also gave me hell when I tried to do the time warping thing, because it messed with the time warping of this. It was a whole thing. Doesn't matter right now. But anyways, what's cool about these timelines is like this update pin goes according to this curve, which is just essentially a wave or whatever. And then you can also just fire events at specific points during this. So it was perfect to do the footsteps, and you get your own little pin here. So this update will happen on every tick, and then the footsteps will happen at that interval, at that point on the wave, I guess you'll call it, curve. I think they call them curves, that happens. And then as long as you're moving on the ground, blah, 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 push the sound mix in the sidechain, which I believe gets pushed out at the next one, something like that. Or no, when this sound mix, I remember I set it up so that it is only on for a second. Just in the settings of it. Apologize. So yeah, that head bob sort of thing is going the whole time, updating, doing the head bob like this, and then each time you reach on the down point, it sends out an execution to do the footstep. So check if you're on the ground, push the sound mix in, and then what it does is it gets sounds. It goes through these sequentially, so that you can always have like left, right, left, right, left, right, because I did them different pitches, because it sounded weird if I took them randomly. Just did that by index, make it go up, whatever, no big deal. Spawn the sound. I had to plug in the global pitch dilation. Again, that was the only thing that it caused a lot of complications using the global pitch dilation to get everything to sound good. I'm not going to go too much into it, because it's relevant to this, but not relevant to a lot of my decisions about like designing the sounds and implementing them. It was just a lot of troubleshooting and learning that I had to do to get that to work properly. So you grab whichever footstep sound and sequence it is, starts the camera shake, and then depending if you're sprinting or not, and this should be based on velocity, but again, I just didn't really have time to figure it all out in the scope that I had. If you're sprinting, if you think about the way that a footstep sounds, it does it differently, right? Like you have heel, toe. And it's pretty subtle, this, but if you're sprinting, I wanted that heel toe sound. So I'm playing two different footsteps, actually the same footstep, but so it's like clunk, 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 pretty quickly and a little bit more subtly. Than I found having it not be subtle sounded really strange. So if you're sprinting, it goes faster, and then if you're not, it goes slower, and it adds a lot. I don't know if I can easily... I'm trying to think if I can easily... I can at least change this. Second footstep volume modifier. It's at 0.35. Don't let me forget that. Let's put it to 0. Actually, let's put it to 0.35. I'll play 1 second. Whoops. You can just get a refresher on what it sounds like, and then I'll show you it without the second footstep. So that's with it, and then this should get rid of it, unless it's being overridden somewhere else, and I did not prepare well enough to do this video and check. So it's definitely audible. I'll try and turn it up so you can hear it even more. On YouTube, it might not come through that much because I'm pretty sure this gets exported, and the video is like a 320 MP3. There's all the reverb and whatnot. You can hear it's like da-dunk, 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 da-dunk. And then if I go really quick, I'm pretty happy with that. It's pretty subtle, but it adds a lot. I'm keeping it pretty low. And what's interesting is I found that if I tried to put that before the louder one, as you kind of would, right? Like your heel would and make as much noise as your toe, but I found just in practice it sounded and felt weird. And then the second footstep, and then I'm also pitching it down very, very slightly. But yeah, and it's not too much of a difference, like what, 0.02 seconds, but it makes a difference. Oh, I think that was being set there. Silly me. I'll do like, I'll just do a 0.9 so you can see. There you go. Apologies for that. I thought maybe it was being overridden somewhere else. Didn't want to harp on it too much, but you can hear how much the difference between the two hits. And it makes a big difference. It makes it feel a lot more grounded. And yeah, I'm really happy with how that turned out. And it was just a delay. Again, it should be based on velocity, but you got to cut the cord somewhere with the scope on everything. And there was other things that I wanted to do, such as the mech sound, and then the jump sound. Please just ignore this sort of stuff. It was just making sure that you're on the ground most of the time and resetting your speed and blah blah blah. It was more stuff related to the movement than the actual sound itself. So just avert your eyes from this spaghetti. But the only relevant sound thing here is that pops in and out some... or no, this doesn't even pop out. I originally had this popping in the sidechain, but I don't even think I needed to do that. All it does is it pitches up the... what's it called? The mechanical whirring a little bit as I'm doing it. Well, I was experimenting with having the camera like do a whirring too, but it felt wrong. Because the acceleration of it was so inconsistent that it sounded like SpongeBob laughing. It was like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you think about the acceleration of your mouse and the velocity of your mouse, it's so inconsistent that having that control pitch was sounded stupid and goofy. It was really funny though. But yeah, nothing else. I just designed. I'm really happy with the jump sound. Just want to play it one more time because I'm very proud of it. The jumping and the landing, like especially with how well it fit with the footsteps. I feel like I got a really cohesive sound. Like I really wanted it to be to have that. Just gonna step out of the reverb. Yeah, I got reverb zones in too. They sound pretty cool. It sounds really nice when everything's playing. But anyways, yeah, the jump sound, I really wanted it to be like a hydraulic, you know, actually like launching you up. It might not be the most flashy sound or whatever, but I'm so happy with that sound. And then yeah, a lot of this is just malarkey for the gameplay stuff, which is not really relevant to what I want to talk about now. And again, yeah, couldn't really do the camera thing. You could probably quantize it in some way or whatever, but it would suck. The only thing that I'm basically unhappy with is the gun sound, which is a bit tough because it needed to match the target. Because generally, if you're going to be shooting, it's two things. It's going to be, time is going to be slowed and you're going to be hitting a target. So whatever sound, and it's hit scan, so it's immediate. It's not a projectile. There's no delay. So whatever sound the target had to be basically just the same sound, or like they played at the same time, the guns shot and the target. So they needed to fit together really well and kind of match up into one sound, but still be at least not weird on their own. So on its own, it's hardly a gun. It's like, it's not that great. You're not going to hear it and be like, wow, that sounds really weird. But you know, it does its job, right? And that was the last thing I did. I had 12 hours to both do the gun sound, package the game, work out any bugs, which there were a lot of because I've built stuff before and packaged stuff, but it's a whole different thing when you're actually trying to run that into the last sort of bit. Anyways, and then when you're time warping, I wanted to keep things as clean as possible. I didn't want like this big deep gunshot, so I like muted that a little bit and just kept the target sound at the right pitch. And so the gun sound was incidentally trying to just fit into other things, and I didn't really want to draw a lot of attention to it. My focus on this project was movement, sound implementation for movement, and in retrospect, I wish that for the gun sound, I had just made it like a sensor. Like, I don't know if you've ever played laser tag, you just have this gun that shoots like a beam of light at a target, and if it hits the target, it's like, yeah, you hit it. I wish that I had just done that, so it was just like a little beep, and then the target was just like a sensor, instead of assuming that it's like this ballistic thing. That was my only kind of regret with this project. But again, 2 weeks, if you make a mistake, you kind of just got to keep moving. You can't really dwell on it that much. So yeah, that's kind of the only thing that I would say I'm unhappy with. And then the really cool thing, again, excuse a lot of the malarkey here, it's just gameplay stuff for the most part. The time warp sound, I'm very, very pleased with that. And again, designing that was strange because you had to design it knowing that it would be like pitched down as you're doing it. So this is it in isolation. Or no, that's, again, maybe the other sound I'm not that happy with. If you use all your time charge and you go into a hallway, that boosts it. Where did I place that? What is that even called? There we go. Tell me that's not cool as shit. That is awesome. I'm so pleased with that. I spent a long time making it sound like slow motion, and then, yeah, I had to, or what I'm pretty sure what I did was I countered the pitch of it going down. Yeah, so the global pitch dilation didn't affect that because what I did in the time warp mix was pitched it up Same with the target and I guess the gun too, but I lowered the volume and filtered that. The time warp, in order for something to not be affected by global pitch dilation, you had to counteract that by pitching it up in the mix that gets popped in when you do that. I thought that was pretty clever. So that's what happens there, because I'm pitching it down by 0.25. So pitch it up by 4 times. Product settings default to 2 times, which I had a hard time figuring out why that was not working. But anyways, that's probably one of the sounds that, other than maybe the jumping and just like the walking implementation in general, all pretty much all that stuff except for the gun, I'm really pleased with. I wish I'd kind of done a bit more with like the droning as you're walking and like different mechanical sounds, but you know, again, you got to keep within some sort of scope. Nailed it. Yeah, target sound, again, it's kind of, I just wanted it to be really obvious that you hit it. I had experimented with having it trigger other things on the bounces, like when it bounces against a wall, but the time warping thing it always got in the way. Because look, I'll play through a sec and you can see you hit them in such quick succession that if you have also the sounds of them all hitting the wall, you ended up with like a symphony or a cluster of sounds all happening at once, and it sounded really bad. Because look, see, all of those were playing sounds of them hitting the walls and stuff, and it sounded really bad. So I kind of had to take some liberties with that. I guess the only other thing is the door sound, which is pretty sure over here. Maybe in there. Well, I had a loudspeaker at one point, but it did not sound very good. Oh, it's over there. Does that not just sound like an industrial door at a training facility? Designed that myself, really pleased with that. Again, I'm stoked on this. You know, I did all the programming, everything in 2 weeks. Thankfully, the artist was awesome. I did not really have to guide him much. We did some really cool stuff with vertex colors to color everything. I should probably have this in lit mode. So this game actually doesn't use any textures. It's just vertex colors colored with this sort of stuff. I guess this alpha is a texture. But yeah, he could have done a lot of cool stuff with like making platforming sections, which maybe in retrospect would have been cooler as like a movement shooter and gotten rid of the target stuff altogether. But again, you got to make a decision. You got to go with it because you don't want to be floundering around for 2 weeks. Like, this game was playable and built within 2 or 3 days. And then the rest of the time I spent on sound, implementation, debugging, making sure everything worked, and then kind of making it look as good as it does and runs really well. You don't want to run at like hundreds of FPS because there's no real-time lighting. There's no fancy lights going on really. Not much post-processing to a degree. Anyways, don't want to yap on about this. Really pleased with this. You can download it on itch. Again, I can't link, but it's my Zillin King name at itch. Probably Google it if you want. There's no web build, unfortunately, because it's Unreal 5, so you'd have to download an exe and run it, which I understand I probably wouldn't want to do either. Yeah, hope this was cool. Breakdown. I love game audio. I love implementing audio. I really like Unreal Engine. I'm super proud of 90% of these sounds. And yeah, shouts out to Luke, aka Gibberish, for doing all the modeling. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day.